Imagine this. You wake up every morning chasing money, security and recognition. Yet no matter how hard you run, the finish line seems to move further away. For most people, prosperity feels like a race against time, a constant struggle. But Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, revealed something radically different. Prosperity is not earned through sheer force. It is unlocked by aligning with spiritual laws that most of humanity has forgotten. Cayce believed that every thought carries energy, and that energy eventually takes form in our lives. If you feed your mind with fear, jealousy, or greed, you create invisible chains that keep abundance away. If instead you nurture gratitude, faith, and generosity, the universe responds like fertile soil, receiving good seeds. In his readings, Cayce often reminded seekers that the material world is only a mirror of the inner world. True prosperity begins not with what you own, but with what you carry in your heart. But this was not some vague, mystical idea. Cayce's guidance was practical. He told people to watch their habits, their diets, their daily thoughts, even their posture. A person out of balance with themselves cannot expect balance in the flow of wealth or opportunity. He insisted that prosperity is the natural consequence of living in harmony with divine order. And for him, divine order meant aligning one's purpose with service, truth, and spiritual growth. Yet, there is a hidden mystery here. Cayce said prosperity cannot be forced. You do not chase it, you attract it. Much like a magnet pulls metal, your soul attracts the conditions that match its vibration. And so, if your soul radiates lack, you meet lack. If your soul radiates gratitude, you meet abundance. What Cayce revealed was unsettling to many. The real obstacle to prosperity is not the economy, not the government, not luck. It is ourselves. And the real path forward begins in silence, in the secret dialogue between the soul and the divine. In Edgar Cayce's visions, prosperity was never an isolated achievement. It was always connected to something greater, something beyond the self. He often repeated, "What we do for others, we do for ourselves." This was not just moral advice, it was a spiritual law. According to Cayce, abundance flows when we step out of selfish pursuit and into service. Service, in his teachings, did not always mean grand gestures or public recognition. It could be as simple as giving encouragement to someone in despair, sharing knowledge freely, or showing kindness without expecting anything in return. These small acts, he said, create ripples in the spiritual field, and those ripples return multiplied, sometimes as opportunities, sometimes as protection, sometimes as financial prosperity. But why would serving others lead to personal abundance? Cayce explained it through the principle of circulation. Life, he said, is like a river. If the water is stagnant, it breeds disease and decay. If it flows, it purifies itself and nourishes everything along its path. Prosperity works the same way. When you hoard, fear, or withhold, you dam the river. But when you serve and give, you release the flow, and the river returns to you with greater strength. This is why Cayce warned against living with a clenched fist. To clutch what little one has out of fear of losing it is to guarantee that no more will come. On the other hand, to open the hand, to serve, to share, is to signal to the universe that you are part of its endless circulation. Yet service was not about blind sacrifice. Cayce was clear. True service must come from sincerity. If you give only to get, the vibration is corrupted. If you serve with bitterness, the flow remains blocked. The mystery is this: the more you forget yourself in genuine service, the more the universe remembers you. And in that remembrance, prosperity finds its way back to you. Cayce's message was both simple and challenging. To prosper, you must stop asking, "What can I take?" and begin asking, "What can I give?" For in giving, the secret gates of abundance are quietly unlocked. Most people dream of wealth as if it were a sudden miracle, a winning lottery ticket, an unexpected inheritance, a stroke of luck. But Edgar Cayce shattered that illusion. In his readings, he insisted that lasting prosperity requires discipline. inner balance that aligns body, mind, and spirit. Without it, even if wealth comes, it slips away like sand through open fingers. Cayce explained that prosperity is not a reward, but a reflection. It mirrors the order or disorder within us. If the mind is scattered, if the body is neglected, if the spirit is ignored, abundance cannot find stable ground to rest upon. Like a house built on shifting sand, any wealth gained in imbalance will eventually collapse. He spoke often about the importance of daily habits. Thoughts filled with fear or envy poison the soil of the soul. Diets of excess and neglect weaken the body, making it harder to carry out one's purpose. Laziness in action or dishonesty in conduct corrupts the flow of energy that brings opportunities. To Cayce, prosperity was the natural consequence of integrity, living each day with discipline and alignment. This discipline was not about rigid rules, but about harmony. To meditate regularly, to care for one's body as a temple, to keep the mind free from destructive thoughts, and to act with fairness in every transaction. These were the quiet keys he offered. He urged people to remember that wealth, when pursued without balance, turns into a curse. But wealth built on discipline becomes a blessing, not just to the individual, but to everyone touched by their life. Cayce described prosperity as a vibration. When body, mind, and spirit resonate in harmony, that vibration calls abundance like a tuning fork, calling sound. And discipline, consistent, daily discipline, is what keeps the vibration clear. The challenge, then, is not how fast you can run toward wealth, but how steadily you can walk in balance. For Cayce, prosperity was never a race, but a resonance, and only those who master the discipline of harmony can hold it when it comes. Edgar Cayce often said, "Mind is the builder." With those 3 words, he revealed a law most people never fully grasp. Prosperity begins in the invisible workshop of the mind. Every fortune, every downfall, every hidden opportunity, according to Cayce, was first shaped by thought before it ever appeared in the material world. He described thought as a force, not just a passing idea. Each thought carries a vibration, a magnetic signal that draws experiences to match its frequency. Thoughts of fear whisper to the universe, "I do not believe there is enough," and so scarcity answers the call. Thoughts of envy declare, "I am separate from abundance," and so the gates of opportunity remain closed. But thoughts of gratitude, faith, and creative vision broadcast a different signal, one that summons prosperity from unseen corners of life. This was not fantasy. Cayce claimed that the laws of the mind are as precise as the laws of physics. Just as gravity pulls objects toward the earth, thought pulls conditions toward the thinker. What you dwell upon, you become. What you imagine with intensity, you magnetize. Prosperity, therefore, is less about chasing and more about cultivating the right mental frequency. He warned, however, of the danger of careless thinking. Idle thoughts, constant complaining, or mental images of failure are like planting weeds in a garden meant for fruit. And unless one tends the garden daily, replacing destructive images with constructive ones, the weeds will overtake the harvest. Cayce advised people to use prayer and affirmation not as empty rituals, but as tools to retrain the mind. He believed that when you consciously align your thoughts with divine abundance, you activate forces greater than yourself. These forces arrange circumstances, attract allies, and open doors you could never have forced open by effort alone. The secret, he said, is consistency. A single positive thought cannot overturn years of negativity, but a steady stream of gratitude, faith, and vision rewires the soul, sharpening its magnetic pull. Prosperity then ceases to be a struggle. It becomes a natural consequence of thought aligned with divine law. In Cayce's world, the battlefield of prosperity was not the marketplace or the bank. It was the mind. And whoever mastered their thoughts mastered their destiny. Edgar Cayce never separated prosperity from the spiritual dimension. For him, abundance was not simply the result of hard work or clever strategies. It was the outcome of alignment with the divine current, the eternal flow of life that moves through every soul. And the way to enter that current, he said, was through prayer. But Cayce's concept of prayer went far beyond reciting words or asking for material gain. True prayer, in his vision, was a state of attunement. It was the act of lifting one's mind and heart into harmony with God, so that decisions, desires, and even daily actions flowed from a higher source of wisdom. When prayer is sincere, he said, it reshapes the inner world, and prosperity naturally follows as a reflection of that transformation. He warned against using prayer as a desperate bargain. God, give me wealth and I will be grateful. This approach, he explained, places conditions on the divine and comes from a spirit of lack, not trust. Instead, Cayce taught that the most powerful prayer is one of surrender. Show me the way, guide me to serve, let my life be an instrument. From that surrender, opportunities arise, doors open, and abundance comes, not as the goal, but as the byproduct of living in alignment with divine will. Cayce often emphasized the importance of silence. In silence, the restless mind becomes still, and one begins to sense the gentle guidance of the inner voice. That voice, he said, is the true compass to prosperity. It may nudge a person toward a new relationship, a timely opportunity, or even a change in attitude that shifts everything. Without silence, the signs are missed, and prosperity seems distant. He also connected prayer to protection. Many who asked him about wealth were afraid of losing what little they had. Cayce reminded them that when the soul is aligned with God through prayer, fear loses its grip. Prosperity that comes from divine attunement cannot be stolen or destroyed, for it is rooted in eternal law. Thus, for Cayce, prosperity was not the treasure. It was the trail of light left behind when one walks with God. Prayer was the doorway to that walk, the way to place one's life into the current of divine abundance. Imagine this. You wake up every morning chasing money, security, and recognition. Yet no matter how hard you run, the finish line seems to move further away. Most people live in this endless pursuit, but Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, revealed a forgotten truth. Prosperity is not conquered by force. It is unlocked by aligning yourself with spiritual laws that govern life itself. Cayce taught that every thought carries energy, and that energy eventually shapes your reality. Fear, jealousy, and greed create invisible chains that keep abundance away. Gratitude, faith, and generosity, however, open unseen gates where opportunities flow freely. Prosperity, he insisted, begins in the heart long before it shows up in the world. But Cayce also revealed a law many ignore. Prosperity cannot exist without service. What we do for others, we do for ourselves, he said. True abundance circulates like a river. It flows when you give, and it multiplies when you serve sincerely. Hoard what you have and the river dries. Share with honesty and the current grows stronger, carrying back to you more than you ever released. Still, service alone was not enough. Prosperity demanded discipline, balance of body, mind, and spirit. Cayce reminded seekers that wealth without harmony always collapses. Neglect your health, poison your mind with fear, or act without integrity, and abundance turns to ashes. But when discipline keeps the inner world steady, prosperity has a place to rest. Above all, Cayce declared, mind is the builder. Thoughts are magnets that shape destiny. Think in scarcity and lack finds you. Think in gratitude and abundance is drawn to your path. Prayer and meditation were his tools for aligning the mind with divine order, reshaping inner patterns so that prosperity arrives not by accident, but by law. For Cayce, prayer was not about begging for wealth, but about surrender. Guide me, use me, let me serve. In that surrender, the soul enters the divine current where fear disappears and prosperity flows as protection, opportunity, and peace. And so Cayce revealed the final mystery. Prosperity is not just money, it is wholeness. Health, clarity, love, purpose, and peace with God. Wealth may come, but real prosperity is a life lived in harmony with the eternal laws of the Spirit. Now listen carefully. This is not a message to hear once and forget. Edgar Cayce's wisdom is not theory, it is training. Just like the body weakens without exercise, the mind and soul drift without daily practice. To prosper, you must return every day to these teachings, feeding your thoughts with clarity, your spirit with prayer, and your actions with service. That is why this channel exists, to be your daily training ground in the hidden path to prosperity. Each day you listen, you tune your soul a little closer to the vibration of abundance. Each day you return, you break one more chain of fear, envy, or doubt. So do not let this be just another video. Make it your practice. Subscribe, return tomorrow, and let Cayce's voice guide you again. Prosperity is not a single revelation. It is a daily rhythm. Walk it with us, day after day, and you will discover that the gates of abundance were never closed. They were waiting for you to step into the flow.